Esports the other day. So that is just actually a very shining moment for Resurgence.
Yeah, we're going to be taking a look toward the mid lane and see how the draft goes, as we're just going to go ahead and jump immediately on into it. Alpha going to be on your blue side, Resurgence on the red. I'm going to start things off with the Cinder Band from Alpha.
The biggest question every time we see Alpha Esports is that what do they do when LeBlanc, Rek'Sai, and Lee Sin gets banned? And that has been answered quite a few times already, and we see CatJug opting for more of these early aggressive junglers aside from the mentioned two, and it has been working well. And for Assassin, if he doesn't get the winning matchup, especially he's going to be on blue side, they just do a natural lane swap, which seems to be the plan in mind just in case Resurgence plays that 1v1.
Yeah, you can see pretty much as the playbook says, you should be getting rid of the Lee Sin and the Rek'Sai. Those are both going to be banned out from Resurgence. Now for Alpha, getting rid of the Senna, I'm interested. Do they actually leave open the Aphelios if you're on the side of Resurgence? Atlan was able to play it in the previous game. Wasn't necessarily able to completely take off with it, but was still able to contribute later on in the fights.
I love this Pantheon ban. I think it has been surging throughout the drafts for quite some time now, and it really does enable aggressive plays over a top side as well. It enables dives if in case you do pick that Aphelios, and right now that's going to be set. Aphelios is open.
Aphelios is open here for Alpha. They can go ahead and lock that in. Currently sits at a 8-9 record within the PCS. This will be the 10th time we've seen it, as Atlan will be able to play it again for himself. Now for Resurgence,
open.
What do they wish to pick open? Like you mentioned, LeBlanc is there for Raven if he wishes to go with it. A blind pick Vayne would be gutsy. I doubt it. This makes a lot more sense though for Mex.
All right. So it does make sense. Varus can be flexed either in mid or at bot, although Raven's playstyle is more of an all-in kind of deal. So we did see him either play Sylas, Echo, or perhaps even the Renekton that we see yesterday, and even the Diana. So now that's going to be a Nautilus. So again, Resurgence would really, really want to get this comfy lane for Raven later on. As we've seen multiple times, it has been successful once they sort of approach that strategy into the draft.
Yeah, and for Rock, here for his Aatrox, he'll have that as he, I believe it's going to be his 8th game on Aatrox. Pretty much half of Alpha games have had Rock on the Aatrox. On top of that, too, we do see that Dennis will have the Bard once again. They've been actually one of the only teams that actually consistently pick it up, and he's actually usually paramount in finding those early first bloods that we were talking about from Resurgence.
Absolutely, and that will enable some sort of... It actually fits well, because Alpha Esports is such an aggressive team, and with that Tempered Fate, it actually shuts down any sort of aggressive or a heavy engage, and it's also a tool to engage as well with you when you pair it with that Oran Horn, so you set up a nice AoE and keep them still.
I like this though. The Diana was actually able to draw a ban from Raven, so maybe they're a little bit scared of seeing that once again. Maybe they just aren't prepared for it. Kassadin though, banned out by Resurgence, as well as the Gragas. So for once, we're not actually seeing, once again, CatJug not locking in his jungle immediately. It's actually been, again, targeted, his pool. There is still, like we mentioned, that Jarvan that could be available, but I do expect Resurgence to actually get that on the next rotation, as that has been a key pick for Epic.
We'll have to see, as Resurgence has been very daring in their draft. Again, a lot is on the line for this match against Alpha. It's literally do or die. So I think the plan in mind is to always one-up Alpha in draft and surprise them. And this Olaf denies that away from CatJug, and at the same time enables heavy aggression in the early game for RSG.
Yeah, and I believe it was the Olaf that did find the first victory for Resurgence back against their game with Liab. So Epic, once again, going to be put onto the champion, was able to carry pretty well from the jungle position. Now, though, for Alpha, again, it seems like this has become a little bit of a pocket pick for CatJug, as he would play his second Echo game back-to-back as it gets locked in.
It worked out pretty well. That Echo match was just explosive for CatJug, and And at that point, it really has a strong level 3. But at the same time, I really worry about when you sort of meet Epic in the jungle as an Olaf. So at that point, it will be scary if he doesn't have that level 6 just yet in case he meets the enemy jungler. Now, what does Assassin decides to pick? This is totally different from his style if they do pick this up.
Assassin here won't be able to dive into the back line. Well, he kind of will. He'll be able to Shurima shuffle his way in, but then he'll try and force open a gap there with the Emperor's Divide as it gets locked in. Able to output a bunch of damage. That kind of goes a little bit toward the late game that we talk about consistently from the side of Alpha, kind of a plan B. This, though, might be flipping the script as we could possibly see now the Varus go into mid lane or possibly vice versa with the Lucian as they can now swap between the two.
That's true. And if in terms of playstyle, Raven does love the more flashy carries in the mid lane, so perhaps the Lucian could go for Raven, actually. But now on the other hand, Assassin playing Azir, this is a completely different playstyle for Assassin. But at the same time, we'll see how this works out.
Yeah, I believe this is the first time we're going to see him, primarily also on a control mage. If that, usually he likes getting his assassins, like his name does imply. He likes being able to burst down these carries. Last time we saw Raven, though, on the Lucian, it has been a bit, so I'm interested to see whether or not he's able to pick it back up. I believe the last time we saw it, it wasn't too impressive. So for Resurgence, we'll see if they can turn it again, because they have themselves a tough cookie to crack as Alpha look to reclaim their spots in the standings after their 0-2 yesterday.
Yep, they were on a 3-loss streak, and I believe the first evolution we saw was in the hands of Candy to counter Alpha. But now we'll have to see this second pick Lucian in the PCS for mid lane will work out.
Yep, going up against the Azir, we'll see who's doing it better, the Purifier or the Emperor, as we load on into the Rift for our third game of the night.
This game for Resurgence, a lot is on the line, and so far they're back-to-back success in the last round robin we're going to have today. Not today, they're still next week, but it has been Raven popping up here and there, which serves as the technique for Resurgence for the past few games.
Yes, for Resurgence here, a single loss costs you your opportunity at playoffs, as there's only one team at 5 wins, and that's just above them in 9th, and that is Liab. So, Resurgence, if Alpha is able to claim the victory, unfortunately, it's game over when it comes to their spring split. They're just playing for, I guess, the upsets maybe later on against Liab to try and bring them down with them, and then neither the Philippines or Singapore, we would see them in the playoffs. That'd be one hell of a way to finish this split off.
That would be indeed a massive plot twist. But now, I am excited to see how this composition of Resurgence has formed. There's a ton of damage. I guess, yeah, it's a ton of damage on Epic, Raven, and Mexi in general. But if you look at the jungle and mid synergy in terms of like how the damage would scale, it really does fit. And Assassin has exhaust, so that would sort of help him out in the lane once RSG decides to go all in.
You can already kind of tell kind of the plan here for Resurgence based off the Keystones alone. You're going to have a Varus that's going to be running lethal tempo, so you're opting more for the late game, pretty much on hit build instead of seeing that lethality that we sometimes see. A nice ward, though, coming out from Resurgence is going to give a lot of good information on where Catjung is actually positioning himself in the jungle to start things off, as I don't believe Epic was actually spotted out on a ward just yet.
Yeah, not yet. We'll see whether or not he decides to take a trip at top side. It is going to be an early game. Ornn is still pretty painful at this point of the match. That will be level 3 for Epic. We'll see how the rotation is going to go.
Yeah, we'll see. Epic's just going to go ahead and clear him out. Catjung is going to pretty much mirror him toward the top side of the map. We'll see whether or not Epic actually wants to try and go for a play, or if he decides to back off, as Rock is pushing in. Epic has yet to use his smite, and he's already too low, so you can't really go for this play and try and, you know, punish this Aatrox for pushing it.
True, Shinsekai is also quite low, so it will be risky. We'll put Alpha Esports, or rather a Resurgence, into a counter gank, especially Catjug is matching the path. a little bit. But now, Resurgence for the bottom side of the map will be a little bit comfy for this lane, especially that the arrows will definitely poke Atlan out of the lane.
Yeah, between them, Catjug and Epic. Catjug has been a bit of a menace when it comes to the Rift the past couple of matches, to say the very least. Honestly, it looks like he's been 1v9ing for the side of Alpha with his recent performances. Epic was a very good breath of fresh air for Resurgence's lineup, though. We often talked about how Gengar was falling extremely behind in the early game against a lot of his matchups early on in the split, so giving Gengar a break and bringing Epic in has, I do believe, done wonders for this squad.
Yeah, there is a lot of huge improvements for RSG, and it also enabled them to find their strengths, which has been quite apparent here, especially for Raven. He has been, you know, shining bright in the picks and has been winning the 1v1 matchups in the mid lane. But for now, he has to be wary about Catjug, since most of the style, most of this technique has been applied to teams that are, you know, quite slow, and therefore they can take advantage of that. But they have to be wary about Alpha Esports, who likes to play things very fast and very aggressive.
You see, Catjug is going to try and sneak his way up into the top side. Rock is already getting aggressive. Shinsekai, though, I believe he's going to try and let this push back toward him, as it'd be a little gutsy to be pushing this far forward. You can already see the trades have not been going in his favor. Rock is really trying to bait this, though.
Oh, looks like the bait will not happen here, as we see Catjug already porting back to base. And right now, for Shinsekai, definitely not on the set this time around, so all the pressure will be on towards Epic, Raven, and Mexi in particular. And yeah, we still haven't necessarily seen the gank that we've been waiting for. We see Epic is already level 4.
He's going to try and come up toward this top side, but he is spotted out by a ward, so some good vision is going to keep Rock safe in this top lane. Meanwhile, to the mid lane, it's Raven taking on Assassin. We wanted to see how Assassin was actually going to play this matchup. Again, the Azir, we've not really seen any of it from him during the split. Usually falls back onto the Kassadin, sometimes the Syndra, hence why the bans we sometimes see against Alpha. But for now, he'll be looking to try and scale up and cause damage there, as top lane, Rock getting some good combos off.
And Catjug is now just power farming and rushing towards level 6, as that will enable the dives that Alpha will surely need in this game. And at this point, you saw how Shinsekai was quite low, and Rock is already level 6.
Rock is level 6. Shinsekai is forced to teleport back into the lane, so won't have that TP available. Neither will Raven if Alpha decide to try and go for a play around that level 6, maybe around this Dragon or possibly the Rift Herald. Dennis was looking for a roam. Oftentimes we have been seeing him, but it gets to his portal, luckily. Doesn't get knocked out as a hook comes out from Kino, just giving him a little bit of a scare.
That was quite close, as Raven, or Dennis rather, was kind of sandwiched between two members of Alpha. Now Scuttle is secured, so a little bit of control over there at that portion of the map. Now Raven, this is the time where Catjug is nearing his level 6. Meanwhile, bottom lane though.
Bottom lane, that's going to be the exhaust burned immediately onto Epic. Atlan still does have the root, and that's going to force Epic to actually have to flash away. A late hook coming out from Kino, doesn't land. But that does mean Summoner down from Epic.
Catjug will lie and wait for another cooldown off for Kino on the hook, perhaps. But it looks like Catjug will try another day. And yeah, double exhaust for Alpha Esports, and this is perfect. As, you know, once Epic decides to charge in, then you try to pile on and sort of chain the exhaust when needed coming into these fights. So you're sort of rendering the Olaf Ragnarok sort of invalid in the upcoming fights. And Catjug will take this dragon. Still has smite.
He's got his smite still available, and he'll also have his parallel convergence. So there we go. Level 6 for Catjug, as well as sneaking away the dragon, means Resurgence won't really have an answer, as the Rift Herald is still about a minute out from spawning, and that will give Catjug enough time to reset toward the top side of the map.
Epic looking for a gank here. No vision for
Rock
Alpha.
He's pretty far forward here. Sensekai does have Call of the Forge God. Let's see. Do they actually go for this? I think Rock figures something's up here. Sensekai's pushing pretty aggressive. Let's see. Rock gonna get a little bit of vision. Ends up spotting out Epic. Uses the World Ender to try and get to safety. The knockup is gonna be there. Rock finally flashing away, but maybe it was a little bit too late. But Rock can do this! He gets himself a 1v2, and he's able to find the kill. Now Shinsekai has to start running away, and that is not the first blood we often see from Resurgence, as that's gonna force out the flash.
This is why Rock has played this 9 times already in the PCS. This is his comfort champ, and because of the knockups, because of the massive Q damage from the Aatrox, it didn't go well in RSG's favor.
And we've seen this multiple times. What ends up happening with Rock is, he just gets enough lifesteal, and if you hit those sweet spots, Epic, no point standing underneath the tower because you're just going to take so much damage.
Just imagine you were one auto attack away. And while all that was happening, Rock fell from battle.
So Rock pulling a little bit of the cat jug there after getting the 1v2. Yeah, speaking of cat jug, in a little bit of trouble here himself. Ends up using Chrono Break immediately. Tries to flash on over, but there's no response from the rest of his squad. Maybe was hoping for Kino to try and go for a play or assassin. But we've seen plays like this happen before with Cat Jug, where he tries to go for a magical play, but the rest of the team doesn't follow up. Let's take another look here. Yeah, it's just Rock. Not sticking by as Dennis and Mexi went for a roam.
Yeah, probably wanted to crash the wave still towards the side of Shinsekai, and the rotation was also perfect as RSG bot lane wanted to transition and prepare for the Rift Herald. That's the reason why you see the bot lane of RSG at the top side of the map. And meanwhile, Cat Jug, perfect timing too. Just wanted the Rift Scuttlers secured for vision, for control, but RSG finds them first.
So with that, Resurgence are actually able to answer back 2 kills. On top of that, they get themselves the Rift Herald as well, so they find themselves a slight gold advantage. And again, we talk about how much of an improvement Resurgence has had over the course of this season. Honestly, if it was 10 minutes in the first week or so, they'd be down about 2,000 to 3,000 gold. The fact that they're staying equal to Alpha, which Alpha we've now seen multiple times are able to snowball gold leads out of control in the early game if they get ahead, I think this is a good sign still from Resurgence.
Definitely, especially considering the fact that, you know, it was them before dancing to the tune of their enemy teams, and now it's them making moves around the map, forcing Alpha to respond. And because of that, they've been garnering a few kills here and there, at least sort of equalizing their losses earlier with that first blood against Alpha.
So now Rock, fortunately, for Shinsekai is still down about 20 CS. They do have that Rift Herald, though, so we'll see whether or not Epic tries to make a dive happen in one of these side lanes. Dennis also has his Tempered Fate, and we already see him looking to roam possibly toward this mid lane. Lots of pings coming out. He's trying to get within range for that ultimate onto Alpha. As Assassin, Raven maybe pulled the trigger a little early and gave it away, but Epic still looking for possibly the play here as Rift Herald's going to be popped and trying to funnel some gold over to Raven.
Yep, that is the plan in mind. They wanted to speed up the process for this Lucian to take off and be a huge headache for Alpha Esports. And that seems to be the plan in mind as they've decided to funnel all that gold to Raven.
Oh, that's going to force out a flash, though, on Atlan as the magical journey comes over the wall and he realizes that might be the rest of the squad following through, maybe not just a Bard. A good call there is going to keep the Aphelios safe.
Absolutely, as there's a ton of vision for RSG as well to work with, and that's the reason why, you know, Alpha Esports, despite being that team to be just very aggressive at the early phases of the game, it's sort of countered because of the vision control coming from RSG.
Cat Jug just going to sneak around toward the side. Raven, though, has his dash, so he's going to get over to safety. For once, though, we're not seeing Cat Jug get an insane advantage in the jungle as far as levels go. He's kind of been, you know, halted a little bit after giving away that first blood over toward Epic. As that's going to force Raven to have to TP. Some priority coming out, possibly from Resurgence. They don't want to give up this Infernal Drake as a nice little chunk of damage comes out from Atlan onto Dennis.
Yep, and a lot of dewarding duties for Alpha Esports as they do want to prep this dragon. They are the type of team that want to take fights early on.
Now Rock looking for that sweet spot, not going to land it though. Shensekai gets out of the Infernal Chain. Alpha though still positioning. Level 10 for Assassin, doesn't have that second point into his ultimate, but a nice hook there is going to come out, and they actually are able to find a decent amount of damage, but now Shensekai goes back for the engage, and Mexi able to get the kill as Atlan gets taken down by the piercing arrow. Kino's over towards the side here. It's all a little bit of a mess. Shensekai now taking a little bit of the damage. It's going to be a double kill, though, going back over to Mexi, and Mexi is still very healthy. Doesn't have the flash available. The Emperor's Divide is there. Catchug trying to go for the Wombo combo. It's just not enough. It's now going to be a triple kill for the Forest. And like that, the plan for Alpha starts to crumble in their hands, and Resurgence find themselves ahead by 2,000 gold.
Not gonna lie, I was a little bit worried as we saw Raven dash in and everybody else sort of clumped up for a really nice time winder coming from Catjug, but it didn't matter at all because there's still a ton of damage, and basically Alpha Esports just wanted to retreat after the losses that they've suffered.
And now you just gave over 3 kills onto a Varus, which again is the late game insurance here for Resurgence, as unfortunately Atlan gets caught out immediately at the start of the fight.
Yeah, it broke out into 2 mini fights here as they've already eliminated everybody else. So you've got Catjug, Rock, and Assassin just wanting to run away. And this was the really nice Shurima shuffle, and the Chrono Break didn't hit anyone, unfortunately. So the timing, the dodge, the sidestep from RSG to avoid that clone from Echo just worked out very well for them.
And we've seen this a couple times for Catjug. He likes to play it right on the edge of the fight. Unfortunately, ends up using the Chrono Break just a little late, and ends up finding himself getting taken down without applying any damage off the ultimate. So Resurgence, even though they were not able to get first blood, they now find themselves ahead at 15 minutes over Alpha.
4-0-1 on Mexi as well. He got a lot of kills in that engage and a lot of snipes. Shinsekai? He's fine. He just walked back to safety. But you can see how Rock has transitioned his lead quite well, considering the fact that there's a ton of vision to work with in the river.
And the biggest takeaway here is, again, reminder, Resurgence, if they drop a single game, they will not be able to make playoffs. They have an opportunity to try and force a tiebreaker. This was the first scary squad they were going up against, being Alpha. And so far,
yeah, Alpha.
They've been able to contain them.
Indeed, and it has been quite different from what we've seen. Like, whenever we see Alpha games, they always have a tremendous lead at the first 10 minutes, 15 minutes of the game, and this is a completely different scenario, especially that Assassin is on this Azir. He will be scary later on towards the game, but it's not as if it's going to be a Kassadin. It's not going to be a Vayne, who's a little bit more of Assassin's playstyle. So this is a different shift, and the question is whether or not Assassin will be comfortable in this pick.
Rift Herald is also going to go over to Resurgence once again. The other kind of scary timer that's going to start coming here for Resurgence, if you're Alpha, is the fact that you do have an Ornn on their side, and he can upgrade both 80 carries items at this point. So Raven and Mexi can just be damage dealers when it comes to the late game, just outputting so much damage onto your front line. And if Assassin, like you mentioned, isn't able to get an insane Emperor's Divide and try and catch out both of those members, it's going to be a real tough time for Atlan to step forward, as it is going to be the first tower as well for Resurgence, as they now expand that gold lead to about 2,500.
The good news, at least for Alpha Esports, is that this is the time where, you know, the squishies of Resurgence will only focus first on their damage items. So in terms of how they can start the fights, it's quite limited. You probably have Atlan's ult or perhaps Kino's ult on the Nautilus, but they're pretty much...
he's going into the 1v1. He does have the dash, though, over the wall.
We did mention this, that Catjug can't really 1v1 this Olaf, and it will be difficult, especially that Epic has garnered a couple of assist golds in the fights that have been happening for the past, it's not few minutes, but we're almost at the 20-minute mark now for this game.
Now we're closing in. We're going to have a mountain come up in about a minute, so we already see Resurgence laying down the ward coverage. Catjug Going to have to go back to base. Needs to reset within the next 15 seconds if he wants to make it there in time for a possible contest. But we already see positioning here on to possibly a dive of Rock, as Dennis is also going to come on over the wall. Raven's there as well. A nice knock-up into the stun. Not going to land. Rock, though, unfortunately, he can't make the hero play in the 1v4. As the kill goes on over to Shensekai. They do trade a tower up in top lane in response, but it's still a tower, 1-for-1, plus the kill for Resurgence.
Beautifully done by Resurgence, not wasting any moment, finding opportunities in the map to further their lead, and they get that out of Rock, being solo, being alone in that bottom side of the map. In the meantime, though, what does Alpha take across the map?
Well, I saw there you didn't get the Aphelios to at least get the tower up in top lane, and this is going to start to be, I think, a reoccurring trend here for Rock, unfortunately. He wasn't able to get ahead on the Aatrox, so now Resurgence are going to try and just continually dive him in the side lane. But like you mentioned, if Alpha are able to trade at least an objective, at least they trade even, and that at least slows down the bleeding here when they're going up against Resurgence.
Exactly, and things are not looking too well, especially the kill score on the board, as there's a ton of, a lot of kills already for Resurgence. Ketchug
forces his ultimate immediately. He can't contest this Drake, and that's going to be the second dragon for Resurgence as they claim the first mountain.
And that will be an easy take, especially still a lot of respect. Ketchug is forced to use the chrono break and not the flash, as he wants that gap closer to get that phase dive into the squishy targets later on. So that was the choice, since it would be better. It's in a relatively short cooldown as well.
For me, I'm interested currently what the attitude is on the side of Alpha. When they find themselves slowing down and getting into a late game where they fall behind early, there's a tendency where they kind of start to get a little bit quiet. They start to get a little bit non-communicative. They don't communicate with each other, which we've seen now also happen already in this game. You saw Ketchug. He was trying to dive in on Raven, trying to turn around and otherwise lost play where he could have just taken the death. Instead, he tried to exhaust everything he could to try and kill Raven early, and maybe, you know, that causes a little bit of tension within the team. Still, though, Alpha have opportunities to come back in this game. It's relying, though, a lot on Atlan on this Aphelios continue to scale. He's only died once, but he hasn't been able to pick up any kills. And on top of that, Mexi has already been starting to farm up a storm above him.
Yeah, he's already got that Ginsu's completed on Mexi. I think the saving grace for Alpha Esports is that Resurgence has acquired a big lead before, only resulting to Resurgence not finishing the game in time. Well, good news for Resurgence, you do have that backup plan with Mexi on the Varus, who will be very painful later on to the game. For Alpha, they will be banking on Assassin as well, and as well as Atlan. So that's something for Alpha Esports to look forward to. They have been the team who is more of a plan A. If early game doesn't work, then we just go plan B late game. And that can still apply in this game.
Well, Dennis is going to head back to base. Still 3 minutes on to the next mountain. Some pings, though, coming out from Resurgence. They want to try and get some vision down, especially towards Baron. And Resurgence can also threaten to actually go for a Baron pretty early on in the game. They got double Bork on their side with both the Lucian and the Varus having that complete, as well as, like we mentioned, the Rage Blade. You also have double items now upgraded for Sakai, so this Ornn is starting to become a bit of a monster, even though he fell behind a little bit during the early game. He can still just go ahead and try and just rip that one down. Some pings coming out here as I think they do know Resurgence are actually on it. The pings are coming on over. Alpha are looking to respond. It's still down to 6,000 health. Kino's going to come over toward the side. Epic and them maybe want to try and go for this play. Shensekai finds himself a double knock-up over toward the side. Ketchug going down extremely low. Cullinga's going to come out. He ends up using the Chrono Break, getting back over toward the side. Rock is on the back line trying to interrupt, and Alpha are able to stop the Baron take on the side of Resurgence.
Very sneaky, but Alpha Esports has got some spider senses tingling, and they've managed to spot that out with Kino scouting ahead. And meanwhile, tons of wards now being established for both of these teams, and more on over for Resurgence at this Baron pit.
But you can see, though, how fast Resurgence can actually take Barons in this game. So for Alpha, they're going to have to be sure to keep vision over toward the top side of the map. Because there's always that opportunity for Resurgence if they really want to. Sure, Alpha could maybe go for Mountain Drake, but they could easily just force a Baron take, and Alpha would have to respond.
True, considering the fact that they've got Raven on the Lucian, you've got, you know, this Olaf on Epic, and Mech CSL as well that will just really shred through everything. And right now for Resurgence, they are definitely in a comfy spot, and I think what could potentially ruin this game for them would probably be flank, so vision will be utmost important, especially come later game when CatJug and Rock are going to be looking into these flanks and attack the backline of Resurgence.
On top of that, like, other than the one death, Atlan has actually finished off his second item now on the Aphelios, has his Runehands, has his IE. He's going to start doing a decent amount of damage if Resurgence aren't careful. So we've seen this before with this Resurgence, especially the new Resurgence, where they're able to get kills in the early game. They're able to get a gold lead, but they're not able to close anything out. They kind of get stalled out. They're not able to take second-tier towers, and then that doesn't, you know, transfer over more gold into the side lanes or more onto the carries to get further ahead. They just seem more and more unsure of themselves, and that allows their opponents to get back into the matches.
And that is exactly.
There we go.
Oh,
nice
no.
route. They're actually able to catch out Kino here, and I think Kino is just going to get taken on down. There you go. Epic able to find the kill. CatJug did use the parallel convergence. Without that super frontline tank, though, Shensekai can actually just run interference with the rest of the squad, and Resurgence is going to go ahead and return over to the Baron.
And what is the plan in mind for Alpha Esports? Interrupt, that seems to be the case, as they're walking towards Baron right now.
And you see Epic just over toward the side here. CatJug could just go ahead and try and jump in. Epic able to land a quick axe. They're going to turn off the Baron. Call of the Forge God goes way south as Atlan get to safety. And again, Tempered Fate, at least they get a flash out of Atlan, but I think if you're Resurgence that you would want a little bit more as they now transfer down to the Mountain Drake.
Beautiful transition for Resurgence, burning a lot of summoner spells out of Alpha Esports and sort of denying a potential steal from CatJug as the Baron resets.
Ultimate comes out here though. Shensekai able to run interference away from Rock. Assassin shifts forward, but nothing they can really do here, as that's going to be the third dragon now taken for Resurgence. Alpha, though, pings are going over toward the Baron. Let's go ahead and take another look here. Kino getting caught out.
Yeah, it all started with Kino just probably wanting to deward and establish vision over that Baron area, as it has been very... But Baron has been the call for both of these teams for the past few minutes.
Oh, I like Alpha. They were like at least trying to go for a Baron, possibly off the Mountain Drake take, but unfortunately they waited a little bit too long, and Resurgence are able to answer back. And when you have a Bard that, you know, has a semi-global kind of ultimate, once he has his second rank, he's still on level 10 though, so he doesn't have as much as he'd probably like. There's a lot of interrupt that can come out from Resurgence. So for Alpha, it's a bit of this tightrope they've been walking where they think they can trade back, but it seems like Resurgence are still very far ahead.
True, considering that, you know, you did mention the Ornn upgrades being online already for the carries. We see the Bork upgrade already for Mexi. And at this point of the game, they will be starting to build defensively against Alpha Esports come later games. So for Alpha Esports to take advantage of all the damage in the world that they have, they are sort of running out of time.
And on top of that, Mexi also just finished off his Wit's End, so he's going to be mainly just a frontline shredder for Rock or even Kino if he tries to step forward just with the on-hit build. So the late game here for Resurgence is looking pretty good. It's going to be 3 minutes until they can contest for a Mountain Soul, and I think that's going to be the last call here from Alpha. If they're not able to take that fight, it starts to look to be lights out here on the side of Alpha.
And as you can see, we see Alpha planting a lot of Epic.
He's going to try. Oh, he's able to pop the Ragnarok immediately, and that's going to be the kill. Epic is able to find it. He gets a double kill, and without the bot lane of Alpha, that should be an easy Baron take here for Resurgence.
Nicely done by Resurgence, finding their target. A lot of vision established in the deeper parts of the jungle of Alpha Esports, and now they will reap their rewards by getting this Baron.
Baron going to get taken on down. Rock's a little bit too late to the party. Call the Forge God is going to be there, and they're tunneling in over toward the side. A nice prediction coming out from Shinsekai, able to lock down Rock, and that's going to be the kill going on over to Mexi. Catjug gets himself to safety. Epic also looking to hunt him down. Chrono Break is available. Axes are not landing, unfortunately. He's going to try and just jump over towards the side here, but still, that's going to be the stun connecting here.
Oh,
and Dennis is just going to try and lock him down. Chrono Break's also coming back out. Unfortunately for Catjug, he's going to get taken on down, and Resurgence now with a Baron and a 6,000 gold lead can start looking down mid.
That was such a prolonged chase from the red side area of Resurgence down on blue. And it all started with Epic being very sneaky and finding the AD carry of Alpha Esports immediately, as they just wanted to scout if Resurgence is doing Baron. Again, vision control for Resurgence in this game has been very, very nice, and it enabled them to get pickoffs here and there.
And there has been, you know, at the beginning of the season, many coaches, a lot of players said Resurgence is actually a scary team when they get online. They weren't able to show that in the first couple weeks of the PCS, but we're now starting to see glimpses of this team as they are now almost close to 7,000 gold ahead of Alpha. 1-12, only one dragon away from obtaining the Mountain Soul. It's looking clean. It's a little worrisome that it took this long for this team to show up. But if they're able to maintain it, there is still that chance of making playoffs.
Exactly. This game is a do or die, and they're looking really, really good right now. And look at the inventory right now. They have 3 stopwatches for, you know, the carries, the main damage dealers of RSG. So that just dwindles the chance of Alpha Esports even more coming back into this game.
I want to see from Resurgence if they are able to take another fight, that they don't try and chase down Catjug. If he's the only one alive, I want to see Resurgence actually look to try and finish off this game. That has always been the problem when they get this far ahead. They just never looked for the opportunities or take more of the map than they can. Alpha are going to try and hold as much as they can. They do have an Azir that's a decent amount of wave clear to prevent the push coming in from Resurgence, so they have to look for a dive or they have to look for a fight, and that might be coming up in the next 10 seconds as Mountain's about to spawn.
Ooh, Catjug, are they going to dive in?
Oh, they're able to get the root immediately. That's going to be Rock over toward the side. That's a massive amount of damage onto Mexi. Varus is down. It's a 1-for-1 though. 80 carry for the jungle. Dennis is able to at least delay Assassin. You can see Resurgence starting to run for the hills. Without Mexi, that is your main damage dealer. They still do have Raven. He advances on forward. That's going to be the ultimate. Use Depth Charge immediately onto the Lucian. Call the Forge God. Wasn't able to hit anything over there toward the side. There's Tempered Fate though. Able to catch out Assassin over there. Can Epic actually make his way around the corner? This Aphelios is still alive and dealing damage. Raven wants to start up the Mountain Drake. Resurgence look like they're all over the place with the decision making.
And that's 10 seconds on the clock for Catjug.
Shinsekai trying to do what he can, trying to interrupt. Mountain, though, is secured, as well as the soul for Resurgence.
I was so scared for Resurgence, as Mexi was the first one to fall there. Stopwatch unused. Most likely it was the stun lock coming from Alpha Esports with the parallel convergence and everything else just falling through. And you saw how immense, how much damage an Echo can do towards squishies. Again, we did mention that this is the time where the carries will start building defensively, but unfortunately, it's just the stopwatch right now for Mexi.
Yeah, and they thought they had that. Unfortunately, Rock was waiting just around the corner, so Mexi just gets blown up. That's a massive shutdown going over to Catjug. And we're also getting to the point now where if Assassin can live during some of these fights, he's starting to come online with his items. He's got the Morellos, he's got the Nashers and Void Staff. He does a decent amount of magic damage, and the big thing about him is it's consistent AoE if they're in a choke point, which the mountain terrain naturally gives to the Rift.
Exactly, and if you look at the composition of RSG, all of them are practically squishy, and eventually this Olaf will fall off later on towards the game, and he will probably try to go dive the backline, but as he's trying to reach you, he's already getting choked down by Atlan and Assassin. And I suppose especially Catjug, he's going to be on target the backline duty, especially for Mexi. A lot is on the line here. Whenever, you know, we did mention that if Mexi dies, there's still Raven. But at the same time, it's going to be a little bit worrisome as there's Rock and Catjug who can dive that carries in the backline.
For Mexi too, you also have the GA now picked up. Epic's looking to wait around the corner, gets a decent chunk of damage there onto Catjug. Still though, they just look for the disengage, immediately try and rotate over toward the side lane as Rock is trying to defend the tower. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot he can do. He tries to go forward against Raven, but the tower gets shredded down immediately. That's going to be the 5th tower for Resurgence. Baron spawning in about a minute.
Nicely done by Resurgence. They will happily take that tower down without having to start any fight whatsoever. They are in a very in a comfortable lead at the moment against Alpha Esports in terms of gold and especially kills. And right now, a lot of the Ornn upgrades are back online, or not back online, are online at the moment, so it just bolsters the damage of RSG.
Yeah, you got both Borks upgraded on the side of Resurgence. You also got the Black Cleaver there for Epic, and look at this, they're trying to hunt around the side, maybe look for a flank. Kino is there in waiting. There is also, of course, that temporary ward. Dennis is going to get spotted out. Epic's looking for possibly a run. Ends up using an axe, just trying to disengage. Raven able to try and push in the wave. He's got 3 levels on Catjug, but Catjug could still go for the assassination. Resurgence. Meanwhile, Mexi and Shensekai are trying to do this as a 2-man squad. Epic still running interference over toward the backside. Shensekai and Mexi are going to turn on back. The Tempered Fate is there. They're able to lock down Rock, and now it's a choke point into the Call of the Forge God. Raven is able to pick up the kill. A double stun there coming out over toward the side, and there's the Emperor's Defy though from Assassin, trying to hold on while he can. Mexi able to come out of stasis, and that's going to be multiple kills going over to the side of Resurgence, and unfortunately for Atlan, he's not able to do anything. It's a triple kill for Raven.
Nicely done by Resurgence. They found the fights that they needed to finally get this second Baron of the game and close this out. There is still Catjug though, so the question is whether or not they can finish this or wait for that reset.
It's going to have to be a reset here as Resurgence opted to try and just go in for the Baron. Meanwhile though, the inhibitor is going to be taken in top lane by Raven. It's now a 10,000 gold lead. Second Baron, you have Soul, Elder Drake now in 2, and it seems like Resurgence are in position to finish off this game.
And with that said, Alpha Esports has one more chance to make this work. One more chance. We did mention they like to take advantage of long death timers, so we'll see whether or not Catjug can find a sneaky kill. And we did mention that the wards will be Resurgence's downfall. We saw earlier Alpha installed the ward deep into the jungle of Resurgence to enable a potential teleport play for Rock. And we see right now that Alpha has no way of doing that at the moment.
And it's also scary to think that because of that triple kill, Raven was actually able to just instantly go and buy an Infinity Edge. So now this Lucian is also going to be critting on top of shredding your team because he also has the Essence Reaver already complete. There's a lot of damage. There's a lot of upgrades. There's a lot of gold in the back pocket of Resurgence. It's up to them, though, to finish off this game.
And looks like the plan in mind is to finish this more textbook style.
They go into Mexi immediately. Catjug, though, has to get back to safety. Ultimate used by the Aphelios. Now there's a triple hit knock-up on the Call of the Forge God, but still, Resurgence are just out of range. And Alpha are able to respawn, able to go back to the fountain and heal up. But meanwhile, Epic already has his GA. He's got another life. That's going to be now every inhibitor in the base of Alpha taken down. Rock is trying to make a last stand, instantly engaging onto Epic right away. Ends up popping the Ragnarok. Still, though, Epic, like we mentioned, has a second life. A nice step charge onto the back line. He's going to keep the rest of the team safe, but still, Resurgence are still in this game heavy-handedly in advantage over Alpha.
All inhibitors are now open. With that said, as Resurgence will decide to reset, get the Elder Drake, get that 100% sure victory towards this game, Alpha Esports has to worry about so many things. As Kino would want to deward, figure that something's up and decide to not finish the last tick of that HP.
For the side of Resurgence, this was arguably going to be your second hardest team. Raven gets caught out toward the side. That's 4 members of Alpha trying to catch out this Lucian. He's going to go into stasis. Meanwhile, though, Elder Drake was secured. Is that worthwhile here for Resurgence?
We'll have to see as We did mention they like to take advantage of long death timers. The problem is the wave is not shoved and not prepped for any sort of thing to happen for Alpha Esports, and therefore will have no choice but to defend against these waves.
So you got double super minions crashing into your base, your Nexus tower down to just a sliver of health. The structures, pretty much none left here for Alpha other than the Nexus. You see CatJug, he's a little far out the base, just trying to wave clear. Resurgence is going to have Raven joining them back in about 15 seconds, has teleport available. Like I mentioned though, with this Azir, Alpha can wave clear. Resurgence are the ones that have to pull the trigger to force the end of this game. You have Elder Drake still on your main carries. You still have Shensekai leading the charge. You have a teleport coming out from Raven. Resurgence are saying we need to end the game here and now, as you see CatJug at least trying to preoccupy the top wave. Alpha still holding strong though. There's no damage onto these Nexus towers. Resurgence, you have to make this play. You're the ones fighting for your playoff spot. Alpha can continue to hold the base as long as they can. Resurgence have to be the ones that say, we wish to end this game.
And there is... Okay, there's the trigger.
There's the call. Instantly, it's going to be the knock-up. It's going to be the missed chain of corruption, though, coming out from Mexi. They try and dive immediately onto the backline. Atlan, though, is able to survive. Raven not able to do enough damage. That's going to force the GA immediately from Epic, but the call is just to go in onto the Nexus. Resurgence, they wish to keep the dream alive. CatJug, though, with a massive ultimate. Assassin look to hold the base, and Shensekai still cannot do enough, but the Elder Dragon is just too powerful. It's a quadra kill from Mexi, and with that, Resurgence continue to keep the dream alive for playoffs.
The dream is alive for the Singapore team, and with that, Resurgence gets another upset against Alpha Esports. What a game! Where has this Resurgence been?
That is the biggest question regarding this split as an entirety. First split, they only won one game, and that was against the regional rivals from the Philippines of Liab. Now, though, we are seeing a team that is looking for first bloods, that is looking to play for the late game, willing to play to their composition's win conditions. And Alpha, in the meanwhile, just weren't able to respond.
Yeah, and I feel like they saw right through CatJug and the rest of the squad coming from Alpha Esports. They knew what to do early game. I mean, they didn't get first blood. It was the 1v2 that Rock won, but anywhere else, they managed to get 3 kills for Mexi, and that was, that boost that they needed to be more confident into this game. And at that point, it was kind of too late already for Alpha.
You can see, though, Resurgence near the end there. They were still so hesitant, waiting for that perfect engage to come out from Shensekai to actually finish off the game. And those are the small little, possible jitters that are still coming out from them. Let's take a look toward one of those, I believe, dragon fights here in the mid-game.
Okay, Chain of Corruptions did not connect because of the flash. This was the fight that enabled Mexi to have 3 kills. And that was a beautiful knock-up coming from Shensekai, which really enabled that snipe coming from Mexi. And that's going to be another kill. As you see, Kino sorta didn't have anywhere else to go. And at this point, Alpha Esports had that number disadvantage already. But I suppose they wanted to get that set up for that big chrono break, but it didn't work at all.
So with that, Resurgence are able to take home the victory over Alpha. It's 22-5, a massive showing. Once again, coming out from the Singapore organization. Alpha, on the other hand, it looks so good in the previous game, and now it kind of looked like what we saw yesterday, where it's that lone wolf of CatJug trying to dive into the backline, but no one's looking to follow up with him.
Yeah, when Resurgence came into this matchup against Alpha, it was definitely more of a fire versus fire, aggressive versus aggressive kind of matchup, and we saw, RSG winning every single time. And we know for the fact that Alpha Esports would want to slow the game down at some point, but it didn't work out as everyone is just too ahead already in terms of their items.
Now, we also saw Raven on the Lucian once again. I'm actually very excited to see how his performance was able to actually do very well and keeping himself safe. He did get caught out in the top lane, but again, it was a trade for an Elder Drake, so I'll give him credit where it's due. was able to still perform very well onto the Lucian. Also, Dennis having some really good tempered fates off the Bard, and that Bard has been a nice pocket pick to come out of Resurgence in the second half of the season.
I agree. And I would also like to praise the vision control coming from Resurgence. It really denied CatJug's early game, so he didn't know where to visit in terms of ganks, and therefore it resulted to such a safe lane for everyone in the Resurgence squad.
And there it is. It's going to be Dennis actually on that Bard that's going to pick up the MVP. 18 KDA, only dying once overall. And congratulations. I know Dennis is going to really love that. Again, he was one of those players that Crow wanted to really bring out the confidence, bring out the performance that he knew that was inside this team. And I think that's a great little heads up there for Dennis.
And you see Dennis, chasing CatJug in the jungle as he just wanted to secure the stuns here and there. And you're right, the confidence is seen, and it has been apparent in all of the aggressive calls from this player right here, which is Dennis.
So Dennis, congratulations over there to Resurgence. They still keep their playoff dreams alive. They still have another tough org, though, to go up against. They still have yet to play against Talon for the second time, but if you're able to do this against Alpha, there is the possibility that they're able to do it once again against Talon.
Exactly, and considering the fact that they almost defeated AHQ, imagine the first place team at the time versus 10th place, and no one really saw it coming, so therefore Talon Esports should really be worried once they come face to face with RSG.
The night's still young here. We still got 2 more games on the table. We're going to see now Hong Kong Attitude take on Machi after the break, and if Resurgence are able to find the comebacks, HKA, they've been the other story of the league, starting all the way down in 9th place, have now found themselves in 6th. They're looking to try and bridge the gap between them, Resurgence, and the rest of the squad sitting at 6 wins. And if they're able to find the win against Machi, then the race starts to tighten, and that's a bit of a concern, though, for Resurgence.
Very true, especially Machi is on a 9-win streak right now, probably the longest right now in terms of streaks in the PCS, so it will definitely be a difficult match for HKA, but we've seen so many things in the PCS already, a lot of upsets, so therefore, on paper, it looks to be a win for Machi, but on the other hand, things are not quite it seems.
Well, we're going to go ahead and take a short break. When we come back, though, it's like we mentioned, HKA take on the top of the standings, Machi, after this.